footwear brand Allbirds, once a buzzy shoe startup, is turning to artificial intelligence. Yesterday, the company announced a $50 million deal that will focus on AI infrastructure. Under its new name, NewBird AI, the company plans to buy and rent out computing power for tech companies. This big shift comes after Allbirds closed all of its retail stores earlier this year and sold its branding and footwear assets to American Exchange Group. The brand had been steadily dropping in the stock market since last summer, but yesterday's announcement sent shares soaring more than 500%. Editor-in-chief of Tech Radar, Lance Ulanoff, joins me now to talk more about this rather daring rebrand. Lance, good to have you with us. We know Allbirds have been struggling to bring its profits up for years. It only avoided bankruptcy earlier this year because it did decide to sell. So in this initial launch, Allbirds positioned itself as an eco-friendly brand. Why make this pivot to an industry that, let's just say, is not eco-friendly necessarily?
Yeah, and honestly, it's barely a pivot. This was such an interesting orchestrated play, and I was truly confused. As a longtime Allbirds customer, I couldn't even imagine. I have many pairs of Allbirds shoes. I like them, and I knew they were struggling, and I heard about the bankruptcy. But what really happened here is they took all the shoes and apparel stuff and they sold them to American Exchange Group, which apparently is going to keep it going. Like, I guess you can still buy. I literally talked to a sales rep yesterday at Allbirds, and they were like, "Hey, you can still order shoes next month." But they used the name Allbirds, the brand recognition, to launch this NewBird thing and get that stock price to jump just on this idea of renting out GPUs. So we live in the world of AI, right? And nothing is more important than compute power, AI compute power for models and training and prompt answering. We need it. Everyone needs it. So they're going to play middleman and basically have these access to these GPUs that smaller businesses can then rent out. But it has literally nothing to do with shoes.
You just said something that might confuse our viewers, so let's walk through it. In a press release, the company said it plans to buy, quote, high-performing, low-latency graphics processing units. Those are GPUs. They're specialized chips that power AI. Walk us through exactly what that means, what the long-term plan appears to be.
Well, look, all you have to do is take a look at NVIDIA, right? One of the biggest and most important companies right now that's been making GPUs for well over 30 years. And now they're at the center of everything because GPUs are just better at processing AI information than traditional CPUs. But not everybody can afford them. Not everybody can afford the compute power that is necessary. So this idea is that you build a business that's sort of a middleman. It's almost like Amazon has AWS that lets you rent out server space as opposed to building your own servers. Well, this way you don't have to build your own GPU farm. You don't even have to buy the GPUs. You basically just go to NewBird, and maybe they'll hand you a nice pair of shoes too. I don't know. I mean, there's just no relationship to shoes.
Not sure where the shoes come in here. How does what you're describing compare with AI data centers, which we've been talking so much about lately?
I mean, this is just a tiny, tiny thing. This is, they've got what, 50 million in, I think that they had in investment. They've probably made a good chunk more yesterday briefly on the stock market to help propel this business. But the need for data centers is vast. They're being built all over the country. In fact, they're being built so fast that some parts of the country are starting to protest it because they're not ready to have all these big buildings built in their town. So this is really just a tiny, small piece of it. The story here ends up being, how do you leverage a recognized and loved brand to launch a new business?
The stock price we talked about, what was it that drove it so high so quickly, and what's the likelihood that it stays there?
Well, I already saw it dropping yesterday. I think it was a high of over 20, but it was down into the teens the last time I looked. But I think that it won't really matter that much. I mean, long term, this company will continue on for a little while, but I think it will fade in the background because there's so many other bigger and more important companies doing so many things with AI. But no matter what, the center of all conversation is AI, and for investors, that's what excited them. They're like, oh, And by the way, I should add one other thing. This had a sort of GameStop feel to it. I don't know if you remember that. Like the way GameStop stocks would just go up randomly because people were almost gaming the system. Well, this felt a little bit like that. It had very little to do with long-term prospects and very much to do with what can happen in this moment, because they said the word AI and they put it together with Allbirds that people kind of loved.
You sound skeptical, Lance.
I'm extremely skeptical. I just it felt very craven to me. I was pretty upset yesterday. I actually wrote a post about it because it was so annoying to me, and a shame really, because I think it'd be smart just the name of a really good and fun brand that made really, really great products. I know that American Exchange Group is going to continue it, but I don't know, it's almost like this little black mark on it because the brand was used to launch this weird thing that is actually a real business, but the way in which they did it, I don't think anyone will forget that.
Lance Ulanoff, good to have you with us this morning. Thanks for this discussion. Appreciate it.
Pleasure.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.